dress, the flowers in their hair, their expressions. It gets very, very specific in attachment. So or amongst the gopis, a particular gopi, or so forth and so on. Yeah, but different cowherd boys, different moods, different natures, different activities, or like the one that we heard to mention, the fanning Krishna, and just there's their favorite servant of Krishna that serves in a particular mood. It's something about that. So it becomes more gradually, when spiritual maturity comes, it's not cosmetic. It's something that's internal. But it starts with just hearing, because we're pretty covered, and we have to get free from that covering. Thus, preliminary and gradually more maturing stages of Raganuga Bhakti. But the Bhagavatam takes us there. It says, fasten your seatbelt. You're on the Raganuga Bhakti train. How are we doing? Online? Is it the Wi-Fi system here?
This question is from Rupa Mataji, Vinod Prabhu's wife. During the reign of Maharaj Parikshit, he had defeated the age of Kali by promoting God consciousness, cow protection, and Brahmanical culture. If the rulers of the state today promote these above, is it still possible to defeat the age of Kali, or is it just Kali is predetermined and will be dominant, as it is called the age of downfall?
Well, the age is the age is the age. And the influence of the age may be diminished. Prabhupada does go so far as to say it can become the golden age again. It can become like Satyuga. Now, provided the way that Prabhupada put it was some percentage of the population, particularly those who are in the leading position. But so it's possible. It's fully possible to restore the auspiciousness of previous ages, even in this present age. More likely, reality is not many people will participate, but the influence can be significantly diminished. Upliftment for some, and the negative influences significantly diminished. But still Kali Yuga for the rest. That is degradation, deterioration, etc.
This is Sanchari Madhuri's question. We hear often of Krishna's relationship with Arjuna or Uddhava or his family members in their adulthood. Are there any scriptures talking of Krishna's first meeting with his extended family members?
Extended family members means what? mean, when he went to Mathura, he that's one experience. And then from Mathura, he personally shifted everybody from the Yadu dynasty members from Mathura to Dwarka. So the main exchange is getting to meet and interact with the devotees in Mathura. It sounds like that's what she's asking. Huh? What does the first meeting look like? But the main exchange is with Vasudeva and Devaki, but then Vasudeva and Devaki made their requests, please stay with us. And specifically, one of the reasons was because now that Kamsa is killed, there are persons who will come to take revenge and retaliate. So please stay with us. But that's the protection feature of their relationship. The affection feature of their relationship is also there. Their interest to see that he gets his education. But anyway, there's not a lot describing the extended family members when he comes to Mathura that I'm aware of. But I haven't read Padma Purana and Vishnu Purana, and those pastimes are also described there, so I don't know.
So her second part of the question was, if there are not too many references about this, is it because the sweetness of these relationships were not the main focus of Krishna's pastimes outside of Vrindavan?
Not necessarily. By that I mean the pastimes of Ramchandra and his brothers with Dasarath and Kaushalya and the other queens, there's not a lot of description. I'm sure it was very sweet, but there's not a lot of description. So it's not just because the sweetness outside of Vrindavan is the same, therefore there's less description. I'm sure there was sweetness in Ram's pastimes, it's just not provided in any of the, at least certainly not in the Valmiki Ramayana. Maybe in the other Ramayanas something more, but not as extensive as his later pastimes. So I don't think that's the reason why, necessarily. Because it's important. There's a lot of description. There's a reasonable amount of description in Dwarka. He spent a lot of time in Dwarka, and not nearly as much time in Mathura. But her question specifically is the first meeting of the extended family members, and if it's not, it's because it's not as sweet as Vrindavan. Maybe other reasons besides that one.
This question is from Visalaksha Prabhu. How a poor soul like me cultivate a simple, pure, loving devotion of Vrindavan on Lord Shri Krishna in the midst of speculations and sinful life?
How are you to do it in the midst of all that? That's the question. Cling to the lotus feet of Krishna and the Vaishnavas, and by their mercy you can move forward.
Amara Mataji was asking, due to bad bargain, one falls in the material world, and there is no option other than to live in illusion on and off proportion to our bhakti. So, can the illusion or illusory vision also be dovetailed in Krishna's service, and how?
Well, we do it all the time. Can it? Yes. And how? Under the guidance of Scripture. Think of anything, sit in the room and look around the room. What do you see? We have illusory things. We're dovetailing them in Krishna's service. That is to say, we're using them in Krishna's service. And then, because they're being used in Krishna's service, it's helpful to nurture the core, the essence of bhakti. And then it helps us when you see those things in that way and engage with them in that way, it helps us in the core bhakti practices, the essential bhakti processes. Okay, that's it. Anything from you? You're the only one in the room that hasn't volunteered something. You have something further?
So when you were talking about the heroes, that I always had a desire that at least I have hero as Srila Prabhupada, but somehow I don't remember as much as I want him or in the thoughts. Like my elder son right now, he went for actually playing basketball practice, and he has his favorite hero, and he wears his shoes, his jersey, everything he wants, whatever he does. So sometimes I feel that yes, maybe he can later on convert that attraction to pure devotees. For me, I feel I never had anyone like that in my life, like who is I hold up to. So it becomes challenging, or how is it possible? Like I always remember them and try to see them and that kind of thing.
There are some persons who, during this, without using names, there are persons who are, because of the pandemic situation, they're more engaged in reading, in reading groups, or in reading on their own, or both, on devotional literatures. There's probably people doing other kinds of literatures too, but devotional literatures has the effect of, specific to Prabhupada, they're reading this biography and then reading that biography and reading the next biography and the next biography about a person's experience with Prabhupada. And it's giving them this big panorama picture of different persons with the same events experiencing the same thing in a different way according to their relationship. And it's elevating their appreciation for Prabhupada and elevating their understanding of what it means to have a relationship with someone. It's going to be different for another person and different for another person, and that's fine. And so it's nourishing, specific to these individuals, for these individuals, of Prabhupada as a hero, and holding him as a hero and understanding what it means. Because even the worldly heroes, just taking the example of a young boy having a sports hero that they emulate. I mean, just a little joke. In my early sannyas days, it was a practice. I had a list of people to visit. I got in a van and went all around the country. And common when I was traveling is that their son, who is now off at school, they would put me in their son's room to stay. So over on that wall was the little red sports car. Over on that wall was their Bollywood hero, and over on that wall was Michael Jordan. And then over here on the nightstand was a little image of Ganesh. And it was like standard paraphernalia. And, an Indian kid growing up in America, they've got their heroes, and then there's Ganesh to remove obstacles to achieve the goal. And off they are at college doing, preparing for a life they can get. And the first car they get is a little red sports car. They don't get a Toyota or a Honda, or they get a little red sports car. And then they get practical and get something else. But I mean, there's exceptions, but that's kind of like so. And is it possible to yes, it's possible to transition, and it's not artificial. It's just something that can grow by the maturing of bhakti. Same as we were saying about this Raganuga bhakti topic, but bhakti just in general. So we connect in Amar's question about connecting ourselves with the worldly things, and we have bodies and minds, we have psychophysical coverings, and we attend to them. We don't trash them or beat ourselves up because we have them. We attend to them and try to dovetail or Krishnaize. So back to your question, it's perfectly natural to have someone who you emulate. And if it's not this, it's that. If it's not that, it's another something. Without going into details, there's somebody somewhere. So to let that focus become some appreciation for a spiritual personality, it's very simple. The process is simple. You hear about, you speak about, you remember, you pray to, you go in that direction, primarily through hearing, and then vibrating, speaking, and it becomes it's not artificial. It's quite natural. Then some attraction for that person, and maybe it may modify and go over to that person and then that person. So we have multiple heroes, and so it starts with the hearing process. And the good fortune of young people like yourself is you're getting the chance to hear this sound vibration when you're very young. And it's not like the other kids necessarily in the neighborhood have that attraction, and so I don't want to be weird. How do I be who I am? And etc. 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 So there's various influences at play. Our own prior lifetime conditioning, and then being born into a particular family and growing up in an atmosphere that's got a whole mix of stuff going on. And who am I, and what's I want to be accepted, and I want to be etc. 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 The journey is not easy, but there's good fortune having at least heard at an early age. That's something that I didn't have. I didn't even hear Krishna's name till bell rang. I was 20. So hearing it at an earlier stage, that's good fortune. And then take that, how to nurture that good fortune, that's a parent's topic. And for yourself also. It is good fortune, and how to value that good fortune and develop it to become even more greater fortune. Doesn't mean don't have your basketball practices and your basketball heroes, but continue with the hearing process. That's another good fortune. It's the greatest of good fortunes. Okay, I'm going to end. Do you have anything more? Okay. Go 5 feet.